Coming up on today's episode of AMA Drone Report, FAA announces 4th Annual UAS Symposium. ACLU questions NYPD's drone plans. And remote ID rules for model aircraft should be flexible. Hello, I'm Laura Hudson. Welcome to Airborne's AMA Drone Report on Aero-TV, a weekly news program covering the recreational drone world in partnership with the Academy of Model Aeronautics, one of the oldest and most respected aviation organizations in the world, with more than 200,000 members and 2,400 clubs across the country. The FAA and AUVSI have announced plans for the 4th Annual FAA UAS Symposium on February 12 through 14, 2019, at the Baltimore Convention Center in Baltimore, Maryland. This year's symposium is all about getting down to business. Come learn how the FAA is partnering with industry stakeholders to find the balance between safety and innovation in order to advance UAS integration. Attendees will hear directly from senior FAA officials, government agencies, industry, and academia on how UAS challenges are being tackled today and what to expect in the future. Backed by popular demand, the FAA will provide an on-site resource center to answer your questions, including inquiries about airspace authorizations, waivers, the small UAS rule, and other policies and regulations. Advanced UAS operations, including beyond visual line of sight, package delivery, and urban air mobility, are the future. It will include the opportunity to learn about the latest developments that will help attendees take full advantage of the opportunities the UAS world has to offer. In the next drone minute, let's take a brief look at a few of the shorter stories that are making the rounds of the small UAS and hobby drone communities. Keeping patrons safe and free of distraction is said to be a priority for venues hosting sport events, concerts, and festivals. Black Sage is offering a solution to detect and identify drone activity at large-scale venues and events. Over the past season, Black Sage provided its counter-UAS detection and identification system for multiple NCAA football games in Boise, Idaho. The company aided local law enforcement and stadium security, as well as multiple three-letter agencies. The civil aviation world is learning fast from the propulsive tech being applied to today's drones. Tier 1 engineering has set a Guinness World Record for the farthest distance traveled by an electric helicopter. The battery-powered manned helicopter achieved a record 30 nautical mile flight to 800 feet altitude with an average speed of 80 knots on Friday, December 7th. The helicopter was a modified Robinson R-44, test-piloted by Captain Rick Webb of OC Helicopters. All flights were accomplished at the Los Alamitos Army Airfield under a special airworthiness certificate in the experimental category, issued by FAA's Los Angeles MIDO. Drone safety systems company ParaZero Technologies Limited has appointed former FAA Administrator Michael Huerta to its advisory board. Huerta holds over 3 decades of senior and executive management experience in the technology and aviation innovation industries, and most recently held the position of administrator at the USA's FAA, having been nominated for the position by President Barack Obama. Prior to this, he served as FAA Deputy Administrator. It's been in the works for a few weeks, but we're pleased with the work that's been done to start a new series of drone profiles. A&N's Ace Drone Test pilot Casey Seelock has been putting the Mavic 2 Pro through its paces and has come up with a series of short snapshots of the airframe, the control system, and the features built into this pint-sized UAV. Keep an eye out for the first in the series in the very near future. That was our Drone Minute. Now back to the rest of the news. Even the cops have to deal with drone paranoia. The ACLU is raising concerns about NYPD's recently announced plans to deploy a fleet of 14 drones to assist in public safety efforts, calling the plan a serious threat to privacy. ACLU authors Michael Sisitzky and Simon McCormack say that the organization is deeply concerned about what it perceives as shortcomings in the policy. They say the NYPD has a troubling history of unlawful spying, which makes it critical that the policies that govern their use put strict limits on when and where they can be deployed. They also say the policy is not clear on what would constitute public safety or emergency situations, in which the NYPD Chief of Department would be authorized to approve officers' request. Sisitzky and McCormack write that one bright spot is that the policy does not allow drones to be equipped with facial recognition technology. The ACLU also has concerns about how long the NYPD can keep such images collected by the drones. The organization had recommended no more than 24 hours in all but a few specific cases, but the department's policy allows such images to be kept for 30 days, with extensions allowed in some cases. The authors conclude that the NYPD policy on drones places no meaningful restrictions on their use. The FAA has been assessing the requirements of recent law and meeting with the AMA to collaborate on how to implement the provisions. During this transitional period, the FAA has informed us that our members should continue to follow the criteria of Section 336 and AMA Safety Code. One of the FAA's top priorities is to establish remote identification guidelines to safely integrate UAS into the airspace and address security concerns. AMA maintains that under their safety programming, UAS pose no new risk to the airspace. Therefore, the remote identification rules for model aircraft operations should be more flexible. As the FAA develops an NPRM to require remote ID requirements for UAS, AMA has recommended the agency consider a 1 kilogram threshold for model aircraft that must comply with the new requirements. AMA's Park Pilot program has operated without incident for over 10 years. AMA members should keep in mind that the regulatory process must go through numerous stages and will most likely be several months or years before a final rule for remote ID is implemented. For model aircraft above a 1 kilogram threshold, we assert that the modeling community can meet the safety and security objectives of remote identification requirements by either operating at an AMA chartered flying site or by utilizing a software-based solution, which marks the location of the operator. Well, that's our program for this week. Airborne's AMA Drone Report is presented weekly in cooperation with the Academy of Model Aeronautics. And in addition to this program are Airborne Unlimited episodes covering the entire aviation and aerospace world, are streamed on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, with additional breaking news bulletins for important stories that fall outside of our normal deadlines. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe and do check us out on Facebook and Twitter. Get comprehensive, real-time, 24/7 coverage of the latest aviation and aerospace stories anytime at aero-news.net. And more information on the exciting hobby drone world at modelaircraft.org. We'll see you next time.